You ever have one of those movies that you adore so much that when you think about it, if anything were to have changed in the production of the film itself, you would have gotten an entirely different film? Yeah, that's Shin Godzilla. I adore Shin Godzilla to no end. I made a 3-hour video explaining why it was a live stream. It was just a good movie, extremely well written, one of the best edited films I've seen in a long time. Great music, great acting, great structure. It's just a roundabout good movie, in my opinion. And this isn't like Godzilla 2014, where it was like I was just riding the high of the post-orgasm of seeing a Godzilla film in theaters. No, it took me several viewings, genuine viewings of Shin Godzilla, for me to really sit down and say, you know what, this is actually a good movie. This is a really great film. With the end of the film, it leaves the world wide open for some kind of sequel or even a prequel explaining, for example, who Makigoro is, which is a nice reference to Son of Godzilla, and it's also played by Keiichi Okamoto, one of my favorite directors of all time, and you could totally tell that Hideaki Anno was quite a fan of Keiichi Okamoto too, just from the editing and style of the film. Watch Japan's Longest Day if you want to know more about that. Because of Legendary Pictures not wanting much for competition, Godzilla 2014 being a major and unexpected hit, they put several demands on Toho. The biggest one is that they could not make a Godzilla film until 2020. They could not make another one. The only reason Shin was made was because it was put into production before Legendary Pictures and Warner Brothers made up their minds. The same goes for the interesting but terribly written Godzilla Monster Planet and its sequel, that universe in general. When Toho announced that they would be making their own Godzilla universe, and I know that was a while ago, but I've just started wrapping my mind around this, they divulged that it wouldn't be a sequel to Shin Godzilla, and to tell you the truth, despite how much I love that movie, I was relieved. Everything successful now needs to be made into a cinematic universe, and it's annoying to me. Now, just to be clear, this is the difference between a cinematic universe and a franchise. A franchise can have, like, books and so on and so forth, especially, like, toys or television spin-offs, something like that. That's a franchise. But a cinematic universe is all of that, including a series of movies that all tie together into one, or at least that's the differentiating thing between the two, in my opinion. Everything successful needs a cinematic universe, and it's annoying to me. There's no such thing as a one-off movie where we can focus on its own characters and setting in a one cohesive feature. Now, everything needs to be played into each other and set up this vast universe so that we can sell more toys. Toys! Ladies and gentlemen, look at Pacific Rim Uprising. That was a god-awful movie and an unnecessary sequel to a great film that would have been just one-off and done and would have been great. Shin Godzilla was just too good. Several films have become franchises that have fallen into this trap. The original Godzilla is such a masterpiece that everything that followed just can't possibly stand up to its greatness, even if made by the same core people in most cases. Not that the other films in the Godzilla franchise were bad, far from it. A lot of them were absolutely fantastic films, but they're just not the original Godzilla good. The original Planet of the Apes suffers from this plight as well. Like the original Godzilla, I love the sequels, but they're just not as good as the original. Hell no. And they never could possibly be as good. As ridiculous as this may sound, Starship Troopers is like this too. Even when they brought back the original writers, the sequels just weren't as good, and nor could they have possibly been as good as the first film. Let's just hope they never make a Half-Life 3, by the way. Everything after Star Trek 2 could never have been as good as Wrath of Khan. Even though I prefer Star Trek 3, objectively, Star Trek 2 is by far the superior film. It was just that good. Some come close, but they never topped it. Shin Godzilla, like these examples I listed, all suffer from a mixture of timing, placing, setting, and context. The timing of Shin was just too perfect with the political climate currently in Japan, the stardom of Hideaki Anno, the talents of Shinji Higuchi, the list goes on, and any of these had remotely changed, the end outcome would result in a lesser film. Even if the script was written one day late, or something as insignificant like that, the film would have been different. It's a minute example of the butterfly effect, and also a showcasing of the collaborative process that is filmmaking. Everything just added up, and a masterpiece was born as a result. This is all really hard to explain. But think of a favorite movie you love, or your favorite movie even, and imagine if just one person differently had made it. Or if a small mishap would have happened behind the scenes that would have changed the outcome of the final project. Maybe the DP got coffee spilled on him one day and shooting, and he was angry the whole day. The shots would look totally different as a result. Perhaps the crew didn't eat lunch because of a mishap or a horrible accident with the catering services. The day would certainly affect anything put on screen. For Shin Godzilla, though this is a rumor, and I've seen nothing to make it official, what if Shinji Higuchi and Hideaki Anno hadn't have snuck their preferred rough cut of the film with all the classic Godzilla roars and the classic Godzilla music still in it? The film we saw would have been much different. Fuck, what if Shinji Higuchi went to Hideaki Anno one day before or a day later than he did when asking Anno to direct with him? Anno might have said no and stuck with his answer. All these mishaps, like in all films, compile together to make the final product. With Shin Godzilla, somehow rolled its dice right. And for everything that went wrong making the film, and there was a lot that did go wrong, this is why I'm glad Shin Godzilla is not getting a sequel. And God, do I love film as a result of movies like this. I know it might sound like I'm over-exaggerating, but I'm not. I love Shin this much. It's such a can of fresh air amongst a bunch of crap. I can only hope that what Toho creates with this new universe that they're coaxing up, that they focus on the writing, because that is how you'll get me and others interested. We all get spectacle now with how effects work today, which is more than fine. I love spectacle just as much as the guy down the street does. But when there's no meat behind it, you lose a good chunk of me. Be it character-driven, like what the Godzilla anime is trying to do, or plot-driven like Shin or even Godzilla 2014. And despite my grobles with Godzilla 2014 in terms of its writing, I cannot say I don't like the film. I enjoy it a lot, and especially love the direction by Gareth Edwards. Now just imagine if it had that important but often overlooked punch of a top-grade script behind it. For the record, this was my problem with most of Millennium films as well in the Godzilla series. However, beware that you can also get the opposite with this, like the Heisei series. Though the scripts were patchy in moments, all of the films from the Heisei era had good scripts in my opinion. Just many of these films, particularly the ones from the middle of the series, had an unimaginable directorial style and lacked in spectacle altogether in place of a bland and stagnant effects, shots, and even set design. That's why I have such a hard time picking Showa era or Heisei era as my favorite as a whole in terms of the Godzilla franchise. Showa certainly had spectacle, even the ones from the 1970s, but often suffered from weak scripts, Megalon, Gigan, and as much as I hate to admit it, even Destroy All Monsters. Heisei often suffered from weak spectacle while having actually pretty strong scripts as a whole. Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla 2 and Space Godzilla, yes, I even said it, those have some interesting ideas and such in their scripts. The Millennium series usually had some great directing and even cinematography, but often lacked a script to back it. Only Godzilla, Mothra, and King Ghidorah, in my opinion, got everything pretty much right. Godzilla 2000 close behind it. So what Toho needs to do with this new universe is sit down and really, really focus on those scripts first and foremost for reasons stated above. If they do this and really analyze story structure and character, I'll be happy. And I believe most of the fans will be as well. Now, this is all being said, I do still think there are ample opportunities to go in with the Shin Godzilla universe. I just don't think it should be done for film. I say make a book, though it would most likely be comics, let's be honest. And I know a translator would need to be hired to translate a book from Japanese to English, and that's no small feat. But you'd need a translator regardless in translating something, and translating something is much cheaper than writing something from the ground up. Funimation makes their money off of this idea. And Shin Godzilla was a huge moneymaker. It made $12 million here in the United States, but it only cost Funimation only $2 million to acquire it and dub it / subtitle it, and another $2 million for distribution costs. That's an $8 million profit. That's a good chunk of dough. Shin Godzilla left a couple of things open-ended for the idea that it could be made into a sequel, but it didn't have to. Ironically, this is like the original Planet of the Apes with its amazing and stunning ending. The Birds is another example of where it ends pretty openly, and with the opportunity for a sequel to be made if so chosen. With Shin, we have the humanoids. That is something straight out of Anno's mind. Look at Evangelion if you want proof of that. What would happen if Godzilla split into those and they wreaked havoc in the streets of Tokyo? How would we combat it? That's an interesting scenario and a twist on Godzilla. However, it would lack the main star and would be too hard to market as a result, making a book or comic the more ample option to continue the story, and I agree. Also, who the hell is Maki Goro? How did Goro discover Godzilla? What were his ties to the creature? What happened to him? Is he why Godzilla is splitting into humanoids? Does Godzilla have human DNA in him? This is actually what I'd like to read more than even the humanoid aftermath. Perhaps we could combine the two into one book, where it jumps back and forth in time, thus not being told linearly. It makes my mouth water just thinking of what could happen with Goro and everything like that. But this is why I'm glad Shin Godzilla ain't getting a sequel or its own universe. And I'm looking forward to seeing what Toho has to offer. I'm even looking forward to what the Legendary Pictures Godzilla universe has to offer, even though I did not like Kong Skull Island whatsoever. Even the anime Godzilla films, I'm looking forward to. I'm looking forward to seeing where they go from what they've started. So go on Facebook, like AN Productions for all up-to-date information we're doing there. Follow our website. All links to my social media and such are in the description below. And in the end, this is Adam Noyce of AN Productions saying sayonara.